I'm Ruthie Polinsky alongside David Haugh, and it has been a minute. It feels like since we've done the show. We didn't have shows Thursday and Friday, so we have a lot to get to.
We have a lot to cover. It's Monday, and it's been 2 weeks since the Bears moved on Ben Johnson, and the news keeps coming in because the staff's coming together.
Every time I get a notification on my phone, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, oh.
It's either NBA trade or Bears move.
It was a lot this weekend. I'm exhausted, and it's Monday. Let's get right into it. Let's kick off our opening drive, brought to you by Chevy. Here's a look at the Bears' offensive coaching staff so far right now. We know JT Barrett is the quarterback's coach. Eric Bieniemy, that news came over the weekend. He will be the running backs coach. We'll get into that. Wide receivers coach, Antwaan Randle El. Jim Dray is being retained as the tight ends coach. Dan Roushar reportedly getting hired to be the offensive line coach as of today. The pass game coordinator is Press Taylor. We'll see if they add a run game coordinator. I guess that's still to be decided. But let's kick off this opening drive with our first down. Dan Roushar. Roushar is, I think, the correct pronunciation. Reportedly being hired as the offensive line coach. What do you make of this?
I think this is as important as any hire that they've made on the offensive side of the ball, because I believe that you look at the other guys on that list, and it's a qualified bunch, Ruthie, because they have guys with innovation, a good experience, vast ideas. They can game plan and signal call with the best of them. But they really need some experience. I think that Dan Roushar gives you that because he's been around for a long time. He's been at Northern Illinois, he's been at Illinois, he's been at Ball State, he's been at the Saints for a long time. Coming from Tulane, he's a respected teacher, he's a good leader, and he's not afraid to challenge guys to be their best. The Bears have a lot of work to do on that offensive line, the biggest area of improvement. That's where it is. And this guy is now going to be entrusted with getting the most out of the talent once they acquire it. And once they draft it, he's got to develop it.
Dan Roushar coached a lot of players when he was with the New Orleans Saints. Do you know who the most important one was?
The most important player he coached, that's a good one. I don't know.
𝗗cie𝗰𝗶. He's going to talk about him tomorrow. We just talked about it on the Charter podcast. So Clay's got a lot of great insight.
That's a tease.
But one thing he did tell us, and I'm sure he'll reiterate this tomorrow, one thing Clay told me today was that he's not just an O-line coach. He was coaching the tight ends. He was coaching the running back. So he's got, which I think is so important.
I think he was a quarterback or running back at Northern Illinois where he played college football. So his background is vast, and I think that it helps to understand every facet of an offense and how it all comes together. The Bears need to protect the quarterback. They need to run the football. They got the right guy to develop the line.
I put you on the spot there. Did you like that?
You did. I like that.
We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Let's get into some of the news that came over the weekend. And this one really was an eyebrow raiser for me. You know, we talk about the eyebrow raisers. Eric Bieniemy is being hired as the Bears running back coach, which I think is so fascinating. They're also going to retain Jim Dray. We'll get into that here in a minute. Let's talk about Eric Bieniemy first, because this is someone who was an offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs, offensive coordinator with the Washington Commanders, spent a year in college, kind of got out of college and was hoping to get back into the NFL. Now he's a position coach, but this is someone, again, with a ton of experience.
Comes to the Bears from UCLA, had 1 year, didn't necessarily go well. He wanted to get back into the NFL, understand that. With the Chiefs as the offensive coordinator, he was a perennial head coaching candidate, interviewed for head coaching jobs in the teens, never could quite get the job. Nobody quite understood why, but highly respected around the league as an innovator, as a guy that's going to challenge players. Maybe he challenged players a little much in Washington. Players started to complain. Ron Rivera, when he was a coach there, talked about it publicly. Eric Bieniemy coaches loudly. He coaches in a way that challenges guys. That is what the Bears need. You need a balance of that. But if he's going to take that approach and he holds people accountable, you don't want to resist that, because the Bears needed more of that last year, as we all know.
That tells me that Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, even Ben Johnson heard what the players wanted last year.
Yes.
They wanted more accountability. They wanted to be coached harder. Well, there you go. Can't have it both ways. Can't have someone that coaches too hard and then need more accountability.
Great point. I also like this about this hire. Ben Johnson's not afraid to hire guys who are considered head coaches in the making.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of hiring guys who might challenge him, like, hey, is this the best play on this series? Is this the best call against that defense? When you have that, and you have that security in your head coach, which frankly, with due respect, the Bears haven't had the last 3 years, that's progress, because you have all these ideas in a room, and you're going to get the best of those because you have a head coach that respects everybody offering them.
One person I know who coached with Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City and has been in Kansas City for a long time said Eric Bieniemy is the greatest leader he's ever been around.
Wow, that's high praise.
High praise.
And then Jim Dray is a guy you bring back because you need somebody to transition. It helps to have guys and coaches who know the players who are coming back.
Absolutely. 𝗗cie𝗰𝗶, huge fan of Jim Dray. You got to get the most out of 𝗗cie𝗰𝗶 because that's your That's your guy.
Yeah, that's your guy.
Got to get the most out of Cole. All right, let's move on to our third down. This is a little nugget that came out of ESPN from 𝗦cie 𝗰𝗶𝗹. Ryan Poles is reportedly under contract through 2026, which I think is contrary to what a lot of the reports came out this offseason, is that Ryan Poles was just under contract for next season. So he is under contract through 2026, according to 𝗦cie 𝗰𝗶𝗹, and then he is expected to get an extension to align with Ben Johnson.
Well, that's the big part of this. We can quibble about the other stuff. It doesn't really matter. If he does get a contract extension to align himself with Ben Johnson, who reportedly got a 5-year deal, then Ryan Poles essentially is getting rewarded for going 15-36 the last 3 years and hiring the coach that he retained last year, which was a mistake. I get it. You want the alignment, you want the symmetry, but I just don't know. It's not really in concert with all this talk about accountability. I get why they want to do that. Ryan Poles has got to do a better job. I think he will be smarter because he'll be sitting next to Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson's voice may carry the loudest if they have a debate over personnel. But I think this is the way it works in the NFL, so Ryan Poles likely will get that extension.
I think the 2025 versus 2026 thing matters because you don't have to make that decision about Ryan Poles yet. You get to have another year, and you can make that decision about extending him next offseason if, God forbid, things don't go well. I don't think anyone's expecting that. I think everyone's hoping that things go well.
Maybe.
Just a thought.
But if a franchise is going to pay your head coach $13 million and pay a head coach $4.5 million to go away and an offensive coordinator $2 million to go away, isn't worried about money.
Right.
Money is no object anymore with these Chicago Bears.
Fair point. All right, our fourth down. This is massive news today. Myles Garrett has requested a trade.
Wow. Myles Garrett picked the ideal day, Monday of Super Bowl week, to do this. This was strategic, this was effective, and I think he got his point across. Now, he wants to be traded. He wants to win a Super Bowl. There's going to be a short list of teams that he may want to engineer himself to get traded to. I don't know if the Bears would be on that list, and frankly, Ruthie, I don't know if they have the draft capital to be in the conversation, nor should they. I mean, if you're going to give up 2 first-round draft picks, which is what the Browns will want, wouldn't you want to get an anchor left tackle or something you don't have? Montez Sweat gets a lot of money to make sacks in the double digits. It would be great to have him paired with Myles Garrett. I don't know how realistic it is.
I know everyone wants to throw everything. Go get Myles Garrett. It fixes your defense. That's everything. Let's not forget your head coach is Ben Johnson, who threw touchdown passes to offensive linemen last year when he was the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. This is a guy that cares about the offensive line, wants to build through the offensive line, and that is a massive, massive hole where you potentially need 4 offensive starting linemen.
I agree with that fully. I also think that you made me think, though, Myles Garrett would be a great receiver on a red zone touchdown pass. Can you imagine Ben Johnson, what he could design for Myles Garrett? He's a great athlete.
Let's stick with traditional ball carriers until we start winning. How about that?
No tight ends taking snaps, no tackles throwing passes.
Yeah, no handoff to the Doug Kramer.
Stumble bums? How about stumble bums?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet.
Not ready for the stumble bum?
Let's get the basic stuff right first, okay?
I think that's a good philosophy.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here.